Welcome to Schmidt List, where we inspire and educate emerging leaders by bringing you conversations with the best experts and thought contributors in technology and design. Thank you for joining us today. Now let's listen in as your host, President at Foundry Kurt Schmidt, speaks with this episode's inspiring leaders.
Pete, how are you today?
I'm great, Kurt. So great to be here with you.
We finally got a chance to do this. Pete, tell me about your background. Tell me about the work you do and who you do it for.
Sure. So I've been a marketer almost my whole career, and it's been almost always B2B tech companies, some big, some small, different industries. And now I am helping CEOs of B2B tech companies that don't have a marketing leader on their team kind of figure that all out. And I like to talk about building marketing engines for them. I really believe marketing it's not a one trick pony. It's not a single tactic. It really requires an ecosystem. And I help CEOs not only build that, but learn how to drive it too, manage a team or manage a program.
Cool. Well, I'm really glad you're here because we've seen a lot of changes over the years in marketing, especially because of technology has been a big factor in how marketing has changed in general. So let's talk a little bit about kind of my understanding of marketing. The way I was brought up in marketing is that it's a numbers game. And so if I need $1 million in revenue, and I get a 1% return on marketing stuff I do, I need to reach out to X amount of people to get that return. And so it was more of a numbers game. So I'd set this forecast or the CEO would say, like, we need to make X amount of money. And then the marketing team would for X amount of budget to reach 30,000 people because they knew that if they could get 1% of that, and then in that 1%, 5% to convert or whatever. Anyways, I know I'm speaking to you. You understand all this. Does that still work? Is it still on the table? Do we need to change our perspective?
Kurt, everything you said is absolutely real and true, and it obeys the laws of economics and physics, right?
Yeah.
I would say we don't need to change our perspective as much as we need to broaden our perspective. I would use, as you were talking about that numbers game, I was thinking about baseball. Baseball is arguably very much a numbers game, right? It's not only the score, who wins, and the record, the person with the best record is the champion. It's now individual statistics are such a huge part of that game, right? So that game that's probably more of a numbers game than anything. But I would argue, just like marketing, those numbers are a measure of the power of the skill of the team, the strategy, the net sum of all the work that went into making the team able to be better than the other team. The score just represents that result.
Sure. Well,
so,
go ahead.
So I believe in marketing, it's the exact same thing.
Okay.
And the challenge is, marketing it's a murky art/science. It's not easy to understand. And so what I think often happens is people shortcut to the results conversation or the activity conversation. What's happening, because it's easy to see, it's easy to, numbers are easier to measure.
Yep.
And they overlook or skip and don't do the strategy, the building meaning into their marketing. I think hopefully we'll talk more about that. I'm just a big believer in meaning being the activator between you and your clients. And all of that work I found is what my clients aren't doing. It's not that those number things aren't important, but I'm sure you've had a lot of guests on your show that have a lot of in-depth information, understanding and expertise about all those numbers things. I just found my value and the place I see the biggest hole is in the upfront. Why are we doing this? And how should we do it to make it work? Because everything we're trying isn't working. I get a lot of that.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot of stuff.
Yes.
Numbers aren't there.
Yeah, I see that quite a bit too. And again, I see it's especially people that are using outside agencies and things, it can be pretty transactional because I'm constantly asked by B2B companies, do you know a marketing team? I'm like, do you have one? Yeah, they're just not performing. Or the life cycle of a CMO is like 3 years in a lot of places or things like that.
I've heard less than that. Yeah.
It can be less than that. And then so what I feel like with sales, it's a little bit murky. With marketing, it feels to a CEO very black magic, sort of. You put some frog legs and some sage in a pot and you stir it and out comes leads, right? But the delivery process, all those things, like those are all locked down, right? We've got ERP systems and we've got Scrum, we've got processes for delivery, like all of that seems to be set, but all this stuff up front just feels a little bit odd and elusive to CEOs, that at least the ones that I speak to.
Yeah.
And they don't know how to choose that path. To your point, I don't think there's that leadership in a lot of places where they're saying, this is why we're doing what we're doing. So talk me through a little bit, Pete, about that why. What's an example, like how do we get to that why up front? And is that a year-long process? How does that work?
Yeah, if it's all right with you, I'd like to frame that with
please.
What I think is a really important understanding of marketing hierarchy, how marketing works. So there's a lot of complex definitions of marketing that are probably smart. That's probably right, but they're complex. I found there's a real simple definition that helps me understand it, and I think it helps my clients as well. And that is, marketing's job is to create and build relationships with your prospects and clients. That's it. They are responsible for connecting, strengthening, nurturing, engaging, and building that relationship. Sales is part of that, product's part of that, but that's marketing's job. What I have found is that relationship only happens when there's a reason, when there's a purpose for your prospect and you to interact. You can see and it's true at every level. When I go to the grocery store and I buy there's a box of cereal on the sale on the end aisle, I buy that cereal. Pretty micro reason, but there's a reason I'm buying that, right? It's good price. Right. I like the cereal, whatever it is. It's handy. If I'm selling $100,000 technology service contract, same thing. I have to have it's a more complex relationship and reason for that relationship, but it all comes down to that. What I found is so many companies are trying to have a transaction, especially B2B, without a reason, without a motivating reason for their client to spend the time and give them the attention to really get to know them. That's an investment. And they're all so busy and they have choices to make with their time. So it has to start with that meaning. And so that's just setting the frame, the concept for you.
Okay.
With that in mind, how do you create that meaning? How do you create that reason? It starts with, you have to, at the very beginning, you have to know why it is your company exists. And you say, well, of course you do. It's amazing how many CEOs I talk to.
Don't get me started. There's so many people there's so many businesses that I run into where it's like, what sort of dent in the universe are you trying to make? And they're like, I make more of these widgets cheaper and faster.
I want to sell my company for a lot of money. That's not a reason. Might be a reason for you, but it's not a reason that it is going to stand the test of time. And more importantly, your team doesn't buy into that reason usually, all of your team. That's the first starting place is, why do we come into work every day? Why did we decide to create this company if it's kind of a new company? And the answer is, at some level, to solve somebody's problem.
Right.
You might want to sell some stuff. It might be an offer, a service, a product. But at the end of the day, it's not the money. They're paying you because you're solving an important problem for them. So then the next key piece of this meaning is, we know what you do, but on the other end, who is it that you do that for? Who are the people that go, oh my gosh, where have you been all my life? You are just what I need. I'm going to be able to sleep better because of, that's a little dramatic, but to a certain level, it's true.
Yeah.
Their payment to you is a symbol of the value, the thing you're solving for them, right? So I find that pretty much every client I talk to that is struggling with this issue of we're doing a lot of marketing and it's not landing, we start with that and we come up with that, what I call your true story. And when we know that true story, the next step is to get everybody on the team to know the true story.
Right.
And we could go on and on about why that's important, but it's hugely important. And then that's the core of your marketing. Once you've done that, that's the piece that's going to create the meaning between you and the people you're meeting and trying to connect with, both in all levels. So when it comes to outreach, the billboards of the world, how do you get the word out about what you're doing for them? It comes into your sales process. It comes into your product development. People sometimes think, oh, well, marketing is this silo. Marketing that works is the inspiration for every function of your business. Finance. It all comes down to that reason you are able to create a relationship with your prospects or your clients.
Yeah. And the retention and thereafter. So
it goes on to, that's another common gap is there's a big focus on, we need leads. We need new. And I've had, extreme example where when we do the research, we do the numbers, we realize in their particular model, 90% of their growth potential is going to come from clients they already have. So that's true for a lot of clients, right? And studies show that existing clients are multiples more profitable than new clients, all kinds of things. So you're right. That same meaning has a life, right? It will drive growth in your relationship, that you're strengthening the relationship through providing that value after they buy from you. And that not only helps your profit, that retention, it also creates champions. And the very best salesperson in your business is a happy customer. Absolutely. So back to your original question.
Go ahead.
How long does it take? What I found is, at least my model is they need a marketing engine. And that engine is typically, in some cases, it's longer or shorter, but it's a 9-month process, 3 months of designing the engine, figuring out those things about what your story is and where it needs to go. And how much should we spend on marketing, given who we are and how advanced we are and what our opportunity is? That's another big question people don't have.
Sure. Yeah.
You know that answer. And then the second stage is, what programs are we going to implement? Those are the tactics that typically people start with. We do it inspired by that design, that understanding of what our message is and how we're going to get it out. And then the third piece is just as important, and that's systems, which is the flywheel. The only thing worse than a bad marketing program is a good marketing program that you do once. And you know, Kurt, how many companies do something once and say, there, it's done. And that's not the way marketing works, right? It's a steady state drip. It's atmospheric. That's the way it works. So the third phase is, how do we make this work over time, steady state?
Yeah.
So
it feels good to check a box, doesn't it?
Yeah. So sometimes it's 9 months. Smaller companies or companies that are halfway there, sometimes it might be 3 months.
Sure.
There's some companies that it's 18 months because they want to build it and then they want to make it work, run it for a while and see how it works.
Yeah. Well, and so shifting gears a little bit, let's talk a little bit about that implementation piece, because one of the things that I see and hear a lot of business owners asking for and talking about is content. And there's a lot of people making content for the sake of making content. There's somebody who's maybe a more junior level marketer that's tasked with just getting stuff out the door, right? And more is more in that case. They're doing their job. They're doing their job as described. But talk to me about creating that content with more of a purpose. And what does that actually mean, Pete? Because what I find is that maybe some people can come off with a couple of things here and there, but to sustain it, it's really difficult. It's really taxing, and it can seem really expensive. So how do I market and create content with purpose? Because content seems to be king right now.
Totally is. And maybe we'll have time to talk about the added wild card of AI now too.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yes.
Multiply the content in our world. That's a great question, Kurt. And it starts with the meaning that the foundation. Once you have that, it makes content creation, long-term content creation, so much easier, because my view on content is it's all about adding value. I like to view content as your first offering to your clients of your service that's free. What I mean by that is, at least in B2B, let's say that I think it's true for consumer too. I don't want to leave you B2C people out. Let's say that your product is a ERP system. And so it's a platform, and you charge so much for that platform. And rather than thinking, okay, how do we get them through the sales funnel to that contract, which we all have to do, and think of that contract as the point where they get the product. Start brainstorming early on about what is it that we know, because we are experts at ERP for this particular niche.
Yep.
We live it, we breathe it. Stuff that seems common sense to us is not to our clients that don't have us yet. So what could we share from our experience that we know, because we know our target customer and we've studied them? What is it that they don't know or aren't able to do today, or is just a frustration that's related to our expertise that we can give them free? And that, when you create a content stream based on that motivation versus an inside out motivation, which is the common conversation is, okay, which product module should we describe in our next blog post? Yeah, we'll tell them all about the so-and-so page, the easy order page. Yeah, it's got all these great benefits, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? Your prospect doesn't care about you.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. I know you want them to. They don't care about you, but they do care a lot about how you can help them solve a really important problem. So my advice, the people I work with, we find plenty of content when we use the guidelines for a brainstorming of three things. I call it the content triangle. One, is it relevant to this target client? So just because I can create it doesn't mean I should. If it's not something that is in the area of ERP, in my example, and issues related to that they care about, not only it's something they know, it's something that maybe is keeping them up at night, right? That's relevance. The second pillar is expertise, your expertise. Write or video or whatever your content is, create content that uses that experience we talked about, that deep experience in some way. So if you think, oh, they would love a calendar of events in our industry, and you have somebody go out and find those events and put them on a calendar, oh, that's really nice of you. That does not bring them any closer to your purpose, because it doesn't draw on your expertise.
Just providing more tools.
Yeah. That gets back to AI. I can now go and magically create a 3,000 word blog post on any topic in the world with AI. And it might be even accurate. But if AI is telling you what the internet says about this. It's not telling you what we say about it, right? And there's just going to be so much of that kind of content. It's going to all commoditize to zero. What will still remain valuable, because of what I just said about experience, is the things that you've learned in your company about that topic that can help your client, which leads to the third pillar, which is value. You want to focus on creating things that they can put to work. They can have a better day tomorrow because of what they read or watched that you sent them. Yeah. Think of when I'm trying to fix the headline on my old car and I go to YouTube and I could use it's so valuable. That's content that's valuable, right? So I find that if you have those 3 pillars in mind, you know who it is you're targeting, you leverage your experience and who you are, and then you have a brainstorm session. Oh my gosh, there are 3 zillion ideas of topics, 5 ways to do this, 3 things to watch out for in this part of that ERP world, on and on and on and on. So that's one thing. And then I found a really good hack for efficiency with content. So it's expensive. It can be. Yeah. You're writing content. One trick you can use is write a series of posts, 3 or 4 or 5. The reason for that number is you have a process once a month around a topic, and you create those 3 or 4 or 5 top posts, parts of a single topic. Now you've got a month's worth of weekly blog posts. And it was the reviews and the interviewing and all the work was one batch for the month versus trying to do that every week. That's a hack for writing. But I also want to mention video and podcasts like we're doing today. Don't limit yourself to writing stuff. That's another way to stand out in the new AI flood is what we're doing now, Kurt. That's harder for people to quickly use AI to do.
Yep.
And then an article post, a text post. I use videos on LinkedIn religiously. I post once a week. And guess what I post on? How CEOs can manage marketing without a marketing leader, right? I focus on providing value to my audience. And it's been huge, right? Because not only does it add everything I said, it adds the value.
Yep.
They get a taste of working with you. It's right. A free trial of your product, whatever it may be. It's a free trial of your product.
Yep. Well, and that's something that we've found that has worked really well for us in marketing over the past few years is obviously, just like you said, doing exactly that, solving the problem for that person, but also not just targeting the decision maker, but targeting the people that influence the decision maker has been really huge for us because we're helping to solve their problems and they're bringing that to the decision makers saying, we should check out these folks because they're a trusted source that's helping me solve some of the problems. And we could take it to the next level by bringing them in to help some of those things. Early on, I was taught, target the decision maker, set your sights on that person who can sign that contract. But I found over and over again that many of those people were signing contracts to solve problems for their teams, not necessarily for themselves.
Totally. I want to add to that. I think you're so right about this. There's some other benefits of doing that. One is I think companies can get paralyzed by overscoping and over-complexifying their marketing campaign. And one way they do that is they come up with 6 personas. You have your decision maker, you have this.
Oh, yeah. One of our first, one agency I was at in the past, I think we had a dozen personas or so. It was overwhelming.
You've just diluted your available capacity to influence your target by 12. So now I'm going to spend 1/10 of my time talking to this person and 1/10 that time. And the reality is that doesn't happen and it's not manageable and it just becomes a grind and you lose the passion of it. You lose the power of it. So that's where I found less, I think conventional marketing is all about that. It's the decision maker, specific title and role. And I still do that. That's still important. But it's more important. Actually, I just had a thought of an analogy. You know how Google has gone from keywords to keyword clusters in terms of how the searching works, where rather than saying, oh, we're going to help you find people that type in this specific word, now they're saying, no, we're going to help people. We're going to find people that there's a word cloud or a phrase cloud. Right. That's how I view personas. What you said, it's the people that are touching this problem that needs to be solved. And there's someone responsible for finding the procurement person that's actually the buyer. There's the person that the people work for. There's a customer person. All the people are the persona cloud for this job. And I found more value in writing. If you find that key problem to solve and you write to solving the problem, often you're able to hit more than one of the personas with any one piece. And it's a different emphasis on different personas, each one you write. So rather than think about, I'm writing this just for a person, say, I'm writing it for this problem, and it's different of the problem. It tends to, over time, cover it all. And that gets back to, if you're just going to write 5 posts and be done, that doesn't work. But the whole model, it's a steady, and it's over time, you're building a library of value for them.
Yeah. And I see a lot of people get antsy because that takes time. You have to remind them that this is building a relationship. And some people might look at you side-eyed and be like, yeah, I'm sure that's just because you want to build me more for a longer amount of time. But it's not as simple as starting that relationship off fresh, because especially in the services business, which I've in most of my career, is that trust takes a long time to build, because they're choosing you 80% of the time trust, 20% of the time skill set. So it's like, well, and so in the services industry, it seems to be even more important to focus on the why you exist, because I want to be associated with people who exist for that reason.
Totally. And also, what you said about trust is huge. Who do you trust? Do you trust, I would say, you trust someone that by what they say clearly knows what I care about and what's important to me. And they don't talk about themselves. They're talking about, they're being concerned about me and being interested in providing me ideas and solutions, right? And they're reliable. I see that they post every week without fail new content. I see that they're generous, right? They're giving me things without asking for payment. All those things, set aside business in a personal relationship. That's how you trust somebody, right? When that's there for you. They're people. They may work for a company, but trust works the same way. And that's what this kind of marketing is about. All the tactics have to be chosen and executed in the frame of what we're talking about now. Yeah. So much marketing is decided to be done. I'll even say sometimes for subjective reasons or even vanity reasons. Yeah, we would look so cool if we did that. It's so easy to do. It's human nature. But the more you can make everything motivated through the lens of your client and their success, the more effective it's going to be. It's a paradox. You actually get what you want by not focusing on what you want.
Yep. Well, and the last thing I kind of want to touch on here, Pete, is because a lot of what we're sort of spinning here as we create this sort of marketing communication sweater is a bit of a cultural change in the organization. Oh, yeah. So it's not as simple as saying, well, we're going to create a content calendar. We got our why. We're going to create a bunch of things and just kind of move through the thing. But as you talked about, it touches all through the organization, and a lot of organizations are pretty siloed, and for a reason, right? It's so that you can track the success of each group and keep their metrics separate, so it's easier to control. But talk to me a little bit about your experience and how you coach CEOs on that cultural change that needs to happen, because I'm sure that you get brought in and they're like, here's the marketing people. I'm sure you're just going to work with them, have fun. Let me know when it's all done. But that's not the case usually, right?
No, it's not. And I will say, just to be totally upfront about this, that's actually a disqualification point for me. If I am talking to a business and they don't see the importance of their culture, I'm not going to be able to help them. And I also, because as I said, I help CEOs with marketing that don't have a marketing leader. If they have a pretty significant marketing organization, I'm probably not going to be able to help them either, because they have that advisor in their company. But back to your when I do find the right person, it's what's special about them, the ones that I can help, they feel ownership for the culture of their people are really important to them, and how their customer community views them is a priority for them, right?
Yep.
So commodity companies, not really, as this isn't as valuable as a concept, but services companies, high, precision manufacturing, things that aren't the cheapest thing you can buy. Those are the ones that this is really critical for. And I love to start as a warm up for them, as an eye opener for them. I love to say, give the CEO some homework when we first start. Say, before we do anything with your employees, I'd like you to go and ask them, what is our purpose? Why do we exist? And who's our target client? And just nothing's not to penalize anybody, but just to get the data about how totally non-cohesive that is. How totally the different stories there are. And that is that says you have a company culture, but it's not organized around your purpose, because clearly everybody's got a different understanding of what that is.
Yeah.
And then I'll say to them, okay, so now every day, every hour that your business functions, those 100 employees are interacting with clients, they're interacting with suppliers, they're designing products, they're answering support calls with that different view of why you are here. Your customers are I'm pretty sure they are confused right now about who you are. So that's how I start. And the point is, that's what I said. It's not a marketing thing to get that purpose and target. It's a company culture anchor that you need to put in place.
Yeah. It's important to know that going in, I think, for a lot of these business owners, that, to be honest, I think once they start seeing that, it becomes pretty clear that this is an important part of what they're doing. Because if the front of the house and the back of the house are working very differently or providing different levels of service, whether regards to if you're selling a product or a service, but the type of customer service that they're providing throughout is not hinged on that why, it's really hard then to pull out the stories that are of interest to clients later to show them, because so many times we get approached and they're like, show me how you've done this for other companies. Oh, great. Yeah, I can pull that out because we've actually spent the time doing that work to capture those things. But I've been a part of a lot of organizations where they just kind of, wipe off their brow and move on to the next thing and don't think about it again. And those are the people that have a lot of challenges these days, I feel.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. All right, Pete. Well, I could talk to you all day about this, and we'll have to do a part 2.
I'd love it.
So tell me, Pete, if I want to get in contact with you, if I want to talk to you more about marketing and how you approach it, where is a great place to find you and connect with you?
Kurt, the easiest place is on LinkedIn. You can just spell my name there. Those of you who are LinkedIn users, that's the easiest way. Just message me and we'll get together. Also, you can go to my website, which is B2B. That's B2B claritymarketing.com. B2B.
Awesome. Great. Okay, good. Well, and for everyone watching, I'll have links to those things in the description below. Pete, again, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Kurt, it was great. Look forward to the next one.
We hope you join us for more conversations in the future with leading experts in technology and design. Please contact us at schmidt-list.com and foundrymakes.com for more information.